And that is that we can report that Mississippi State head football coach Mike Leach has died. Leach was hospitalized over the weekend after reportedly suffering a massive heart attack. Leach was in his third season as the head coach of the Bulldogs. He was at practice on Saturday with his team as they prepared to play Illinois in the ReliaQuest Bowl, which is scheduled for January 2nd. Later on Saturday, he reportedly suffered the heart attack in his home and was eventually airlifted to the University of Mississippi Medical Center in Jackson, Mississippi, where he died last night. The school announced his passing this morning. Mike Leach was 61 years old. He was known for his prolific air raid offenses. He was 158 and 107 in 21 seasons as a head coach at Texas Tech and Washington State, and then at Mississippi State. His impact on the sport can be felt in so many places, including the members of his coaching tree, which include Josh Heupel and Cliff Kingsbury and Lincoln Riley. So this sad news that we are just able to report here in the last few moments. Paul Feinbaum joins us here for reaction. And obviously, Paul, this in the southeastern part of the country will resonate, as it will all across the country. Mike Leach was a figure that so many enjoyed over the years for his wit as well as his outstanding coaching. What can we say this morning about the sad passing of Mike Leach?
I think he truly, Greeny, was one of the most brilliant innovators in the history of the game. And you alluded to some of the names that he helped produce. It's an endless stream, including Lincoln Riley, who has produced 3 of the last 6 Heisman Trophy winners. The imprint of his offense is seen not only in college football, but obviously in the NFL. And he had such an interesting career, becoming the #1 team in the country at Texas Tech, and then he left there and did it again at Washington State with great teams. And it was a surprising decision a couple of years ago when he decided to leave Pullman to go to Starkville. But he put together an outstanding team there in his final game on Thanksgiving night in the Egg Bowl, perhaps his biggest win at Mississippi State, upsetting Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss. But it was the quarterbacks that he produced, the talent in the coaching world that he shepherded and mentored that I think he will be remembered for. It's a shocking loss. He was, as you mentioned, he was at practice on Saturday. He went to a Christmas party, Greeny, on Saturday night, surprising some media members. And then Sunday morning, of course, he suffered a massive heart attack.
And again, we can report this morning that he has died at the age of 61. And obviously the coaching speaks for itself, and the tree, as you mentioned, speaks for itself. But he also spoke for himself extraordinarily. What I think of when I think of him are all the many funny moments, frankly. I wonder how well you got to know him during the time that he was down there. And what can you tell us about Mike Leach beyond the coach?
The smartest coach I've ever been around, and I got to know him primarily originally when he was out of coaching. We worked together on satellite radio, and he had a show every afternoon that he did from Key West. Greeny, he did not play college football, and he had a law degree. It was the most irreverent combination that we may have ever seen before. You never knew what you were getting with him, and that's not an overstatement. He was quirky, he was irreverent, he was funny. He seemed sometimes bored talking about college football. Whenever we would interview him, you just didn't know where it was going to go. He was a joy to know, and it will be said many times today, but the college football world is an absolute shock, and he's one of the truly irreplaceable figures in the history of the game.
Yeah, I guess just as a final thought, Paul, what sorts of things have you been hearing from people? This does not, of course, just in 2 days it comes as an enormous shock, but over the course of the last 24 hours or so, I think that there was an expectation that this was where this may land. So what sorts of things were you hearing from the people that you've spoken to over the last few hours?
I think more than anything, Greeny, records are one thing in college football or in pro football or in any sport, but the legacy that one leaves behind is what I heard from his many friends and coaching colleagues across the coaching landscape. And I think that's what you'll hear all day today and really for a long time to come in respect to Mike Leach.
That's well said, Paul. We appreciate your candor today and your insight into the situation. Thank you very much. We will pause briefly here for just a moment. We'll continue to get reaction to this very sad news this morning. Mississippi State head coach, a legendary figure in the sport, Mike Leach, has died at the age of 61. We'll be back in just a moment. This is Get Up on ESPN.